Hi, it's Samantha from Samantha by Design. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today, we'll be painting a galaxy. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. Alright, we will be going over some materials, so I will definitely be using some black acrylic paint, Dioxazine purple, Phtalo blue, Quinacridone magenta. I'll also be using Ultramarine blue, some Cadmium yellow medium. We'll only need a little bit of this, and some titanium white and some zinc white. I'll be using a variety of brushes, so we'll just go over some of them real quick, but we'll go more in detail once we start. So I have a 1-inch bright brush. I have some random brushes we're going to use for scrubbing. These are stiff bristle brushes. They're not soft. They're quite picky. You wouldn't want to do your eyeshadow with these. Some more scrubbing brushes. I have a variety to show you guys that you don't need the specific brush to get the results that you want. So just a bunch of scrubby brushes. A round brush. This is a #1 round brush from Princeton. I have a tiny detail brush. Another type of round brush. An old toothbrush for splatters. Please, for the love of God, do not use your actual toothbrush for this, because you don't want acrylic paint in your mouth, even if you rinse it. Old toothbrush. I'm also using a makeup brush today. I'll be showing you guys how I use a makeup brush to blend the sky. Again, if you are using this for paint, please do not reuse it for makeup ever again. We might need a palette knife for mixing colors, but you can just do that with your brush. I'll be using a little Mr. water bottle to keep my paints moist as I work, because acrylics do dry fast. This is a sea sponge. We'll be using this to create our tree silhouette down here. If you don't have a sea sponge, don't worry, I'll show you a technique on how to get the same results with a brush. These you can get for super cheap. I think I got this one at Walmart like 3 years ago. It still works if you take care of it. It'll last you a while. I'm using a foam plate as my palette. I have a paper towel for wiping off my brushes and a jar of water to rinse my brushes and to make sure that I have enough stuff to work with, because acrylics do work with water. Today I'm also going to be showing you how to use the gridding method, because I didn't go over it in my last video and I just wanted to show you guys how it's done. The materials and also the reference photo will be in the description below, and that includes the gridded version of the reference photo as well. So let me just move these things out of the way, and I'm going to show you how to grid before we get started. Alright, let me grab my reference to show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so if you look at your description down below, there is a PDF with this reference image and also the one without a grid. So this is great if you just want to look, but if you want to be more precise with where you put your colors, the grid is perfect for that. So I like to do mine in 2-inch increments, and I will be working again on an 8x10 canvas board. So what I'm going to do, this is 2 inches. So if I'm working on an 8x10, like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'm going to do that here and also here. If you're working on a bigger canvas that scales up to the same ratio, like a 16x20, you would do 4 inches instead of 2 to even up to the same number. So 4, 8, 12, 16, whatever. I didn't count that right, but you get the point. So I'm just going to use a watercolor pencil to get my grid on my canvas. You could use a regular pencil, but keep in mind that it would probably bleed through your paint or mix with it, so use it extremely lightly. Watercolor pencil is basically like watercolor paint, so it just blends in perfectly. This is why I'm using a blue violet, because our galaxy is a blue violet color, so it'll just blend in and you won't even know that I used this. So let's get to gridding. So the grid reference I provided for you was 2 inches. So I'm going to put my ruler down, and at every 2 inches I'm going to make a mark. Perfect. And then again on the side, every 2 inches. 2, 4, 6, 8 is at the top. And then I'm going to do the same on every side so that I know that my lines are going to line up. 4, 6, 8. And one more side. Oops, I put my line at 3. Disregard this one, it'll just blend away anyways. Okay, so now I have all my lines. I'm just going to connect all of them. This doesn't have to be perfect because we are just painting a landscape. If you were painting a person or an animal and you were using the gridding method, maybe use a T-square instead of a ruler to get straighter lines. But I'm just demonstrating this so that you know you could use your grid. So just keep making your lines. All this cat fluff. There. My lines will be a little crooked, I think. And that's alright. It's not a big deal. Alrighty, so last line. So now, if I look at my reference image again, I have the exact same grid here and here. So if I wanted to see where my trees are, I would go into this little square and draw exactly what I see. So it starts about halfway up, it rides up a little bit. So let's just do that. We'll draw in the tree line just to show you guys really quick, even though we're going to be painting over it. But I just want to show you how the grid works so that you know where to take your dark colors. It goes from this grid to this one, and how to start your light colors in. So we'll just do it this way this time. Alright. So let's say our tree line starts about here, and then it comes down, goes up a bit, goes back down, goes back up. Then it exits the square about halfway, and then squiggle, squiggle, squiggle here. It stays pretty consistent as to like how it's moving, and then we get a little jump here, and then higher up, all the way down. Now we will be painting over this, so I'm not very stressed about this, but this is basically how I'm rendering this. And then we know that at this square, all the way up to about here, we're gonna have a light tunnel. Our dark colors are gonna do kind of like a funky shape like this. Whoop. All the way up. There's another dark corner right here. There's some like pinky orange colors here and a bunch of stars. So we're just gonna start like that. I will be putting out my paints and then we'll get started. Get rid of this. All right, let's put our paints out. This is carbon black. You can use Mars black. You could use whatever color that you want. You don't even need to use the colors I'm using. You can make your galaxy blue and green, blue, green, yellow. You can make it just pink, just purple. It's completely up to you. That's Dioxazine purple I just put beside it. And if you painted my last video of the sunset, we're going to be using pretty much the same techniques. So that'll be perfect because we're basically doing the same thing we did for the sunset with the clouds to do a galaxy. I'm just gonna open my other paint tube after, I think. So this was carbon black, dioxazine purple, phthalo blue, ultramarine blue. We're gonna put out some magenta. Now you don't need two blues. I'm just lucky enough to have both. So this one's more of a green blue and this one's more of a purple blue. I'm just going to use both, but you can just use one. Don't feel obligated to run to the store to buy two. This is cadmium yellow medium. I'll also be needing some white. Quite a bit of white. And zinc white. This is a transparent white. Again, you don't need to use this. You can thin down your paint with a little bit of water to get the same effect. Just make sure that you don't use too much water because it can underbind and not stick to your painting properly. But if you don't have zinc white, don't panic. You can do the same thing with just your normal white. I think those are all the colors that I'm going to need for now. Alright, make sure there's no cat hair on there. So I'll be using a little bit of a different technique today. In the last video I showed you that you can blend it with your brush, blend with your fingers. Today I'm going to be starting with my darkest colors up here, working my way down to the lights, and I'll be putting it on messily and pretty thick. And then I'm going to take my makeup brush and very, very gently, as if you were putting on blush. If you wear makeup, you understand that. But if not, just like super, super gentle. I'll be going over it in circular motions to get a nice blend. And then we'll be doing other layers. So again, the first layer, don't panic. It might look like a hot mess. It's completely normal. It's acrylic. Alright, so I'm looking at my reference here, and I can see that it's quite dark, like almost black here. But it does lean to the blue-purple side. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our brush a little bit damp, wipe off the excess on a paper towel. You don't want to see any drops on your hand. You just want to feel the dampness of the brush. We are going to grab a little bit of phthalo blue, a little bit of dioxazine purple, mix those two, and then some black. It'll look black, but if you look carefully, there is a lenience to the purple and the blue. And while you're putting this in the dark spot, don't worry about mixing the exact same color. It's a sky, it'll be different, and we don't have to really worry about that. So I'll go back to my grid reference, and it starts about there, but I'm going to start in the corner up here. And I'm just going to put this on using a crisscross motion. I'm not worrying about blending. I just want to paste this on fairly quickly. It's messy, it's thick. I'm not stressed about it. We'll be doing another layer. We'll do some blending. I'm just going to get my edge. There's brush marks. There's some thicker parts, thinner parts. Don't worry, we'll take care of all of that with our makeup brush. If you don't have a makeup brush to use for painting, you can use what's called an oval mop brush or a round mop brush. Just any kind of mop brush will give you pretty much the same results. Alright, and now it's going into more purpley colors, and it's a bit lighter. So instead of the titanium, if you don't have the zinc, you can use the titanium. That's completely fine. So we'll do a little bit of phthalo. We'll mix both our blues with the purple and add a little bit of white to this. I'm not rinsing my brush. A little bit more purple. Just pasting this in. Again, it's going to look like a really hot mess before it looks good. See all these streaks? It's perfect. It's what you want. Now I will rinse my brush out really quick to get the black off of it. Dry it off. See, it's not perfectly rinsed. That's fine. And I'm going to need more purple. More purple. Put some out. Alright. More purple, a little bit white. And again, if the colors don't match perfectly, don't even stress about it. We're going to be adding more colors on top. This is just our first layer. Maybe we'll get some ultramarine blue with a little bit of magenta. Again, you don't have to follow the reference image perfectly. It's a reference. Even lighter down here. Alright, and if you look at the bottom of the reference where the trees are, you can see that it gets fairly light, and it's not quite purple and also not quite pink. It's kind of like a muted color. So how I'm going to do that is use an opposite color. I'm just going to put some random splads of whites in some places here or there. Alright, so how I'm going to do that, the opposite color to purple is yellow. So I'm going to grab a dab of yellow, and just to say mute the purple color. That's a little too much yellow, so I'm going to grab a little bit more purple. Alright, see how this purple is not as bright as the one we have here? That's exactly what we want. We'll grab quite a bit of white. My brush is messy, and we are going to put this at the bottom. You can take this all the way to the bottom if you'd like. And again, we are working fairly quickly because we don't want this to dry up here before we can start blending. Get the edges. All right, put my brush in water, grab my makeup brush, and I will lightly, in circular motions, start blending the dark colors into the light colors. This is one of my favorite things to do. I love watching it all blend. I'm doing this very lightly, I'm not pressing very hard. And this is just layer one, so if it doesn't look like the picture, again, don't you worry, we'll get there. I'm gonna wipe off some of the paint and keep working on this. Keep blending, blending, blending. Wipe it off. Go back on the dark. Bring some of it down. Alright, and if you get some little wispy bits, that's perfect because galaxies are wispy. So I'm just gonna blend like this and we'll call that good. Okay, see, hot mess. That's fine. Now we're gonna go rinse out our brushes. We're gonna mist our palette. So I'll be rinsing my brushes, changing my water, and then we'll meet back here. Alrighty, now my sky is nice and dry. My brushes have been rinsed, washed with soap and water. I got clean water and I also flipped over my paper towel. The next step we're going to do is render some of the colors. We'll make some spots we'll make some spots darker. Also some spots lighter. We'll color adjust a little bit because it kind of got more blue up here that I'd like. So we'll be basically doing the same thing we did with our sunset, we'll do with darker colors to make a night sky. So all of these brushes in my hands right now can pretty much give you the same results. So this is a round brush. Again, these are all stiff bristled, meaning that they're not super soft. Like this brush here is very, very soft. This one here is kind of pokey. You wouldn't want to put that near your face. Round brushes, so these two brushes are basically the same thing. You can get these at Walmart. These I got from Michael's, I think like 4 or 5 years ago. These are the same brush, just one's bigger, one's smaller. And then these are Willow's blenders from Princeton. I really, really love these. These are new brushes for me. They work awesome for scrubbing in clouds, but you can achieve the same results no matter what brush you use here as long as it is a stiff bristled scrubby brush. So I think for the purposes of this painting, I'm going to start with the biggest brush that I have. And I'm going to start scrubbing in the corners and rendering all the dark, dark spots. So if you look at your reference, put it here just for quick. We need to make the line a little bit more squiggly. Because right now I have a straight line and we don't want that. So we want it to be more cloud-like. So I will not be wetting my brush for this round of scrubbing. So I will be doing what's called a dry brush technique, meaning that there's no water on your brush, it is dry. So we are going to grab, I think I'm going to go in with just purple for now, and maybe a little bit of the Phtalo blue, which is a more greeny blue. And we'll grab more purple than blue. I don't think I'll be re-adding black because I want the colors to be a little bit more vibrant, and I'm just going to start scrubbing in this corner here. And again, the more layers you do with this, the nicer your galaxy will be, in my opinion. Maybe a little bit of black here, just to make it very dark like the picture. So a little bit of black, a little bit of purple, a little bit of blue. The more layers you do, the cooler your galaxy is going to look, in my opinion, because you'll be able to see all the different colors that you put down. Because the colors we're using, they're fairly transparent, and you can tell that if you look at the back of your bottle or the front sometimes, there's, it tells you. So this magenta is semi-opaque. The Phthalo blue is opaque, but I find it's pretty transparent, to be honest. And this purple is a little bit opaque. Black is obviously not opaque, but all these colors are going to be kind of like washes, so you'll be able to see all the different layers you've done. Your painting is going to have more dimension that way. So, scrubbing in circular motions. Grab a little bit more blue, a little bit of black. Wipe off your brush if you have too much paint. You don't want a huge glob of paint when you're dry brushing. You just want a little bit of paint, and again, don't work an area for too long because the paint can lift off, and we don't want that. A little bit more blue, a little bit purple, a little bit of black. Okay, and then it kind of dips down here and then comes back up. And in this little dip down, there's a little bit of a lighter blue on the top of the picture if you look. Scrub, make this edgy regular down here. And again, you don't have to get this perfect on the first try. We'll probably be adding more lights, more darks. Okay, and then it's quite dark up here. Scrub in circular motions. We'll just cover this little dot and add the light on top in a second. Alright. So let's see if our little line kind of matches. We dip down, squiggle up, and then down kind of to like a point down here. All right. Now we're gonna rinse our brush and get the black out of it. Wipe off as much water as you can. I'm just gonna squeeze it with the paper towel, test it on my hand. All right, it's not too wet. We are good to continue. So now if you look, it's kind of like a lighter blue-purple underneath this dark color. So we'll grab purple and blue together, and we'll add a little bit of white. Not too much, just a little bit. Barely any white. And then we're gonna come here, and we're gonna start blending these two together just by scrubbing. You don't want a lot of paint on your brush. Scrub, scrub, scrub. If you can't tell the difference, add a little bit more white. There we go. I have too much paint, so I'm going to wipe some off. And again, we're working on making regular little cloud shapes. If you painted my first video, this is basically the same technique. We're just using darker colors to get the same results, basically. I'll switch over to the ultramarine blue, which is more of a purple blue. And just keep scrubbing out some clouds. And then here it kind of goes up. This, and don't worry, we will make some adjustments after. This is just the second layer. We got about 3 or 4 layers to do. And then there's a little bit of lighter blue up on the little section up here that we were talking about. So we're just going to take the brush, add that in very, very lightly. And we will fix that up after as well. Here, it goes quite purple. A little bit of white. Whoa, that was a lot of white. And we're going to start doing the little part of our reference like here. That's kind of dark, but not really. So we'll just start working on that, scrubbing circular motions. Blend it up into this color. Grab a little bit of darker purple. We're just going to splot that in, wipe our brush off, and then blend these together. Now again, I am simplifying this quite a bit because this is for beginners. But you will still get an awesome result. And then here we get even lighter. Get more purple, more white. Wipe off the excess paint. And then we'll get back to purple and blue. Right here, maybe a little bit of black. Not too much though, wipe off the excess. Alright, now we're going to get even lighter. And we're going to start lightening this up. There we go, more purple. I'm just looking at the basic shapes on the reference and trying to follow the direction, but I'm not matching it exactly. I'm not very stressed about matching it exactly. And I'm using my bigger brush because I don't want to focus too much on the details right now. I just want to get the color placements a little bit better than when we started. And then we'll switch over to a smaller scrubby brush for our third layer. But for now, we basically just want to do this. We have a light column here. Keep scrubbing. Very, very purple. You can just keep alternating your colors. Doesn't have to be one same color. Just keep varying it. It'll look better that way. You don't have to use the exact same mixes. I'm just kind of picking a random color and just going with it, to be honest, at this point. You're going to get an awesome result no matter what, so just go for it. That's a little too pink for my liking, so I'm just going to grab a little bit more purple. And we'll just keep scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing. This is still wet, so I'm not going to scrub too much there right now. We'll wait for it to dry and I'll just do another layer. The reason I'm not going in while it's starting to dry is because acrylic paint starts to dry sticky, and I could pick up the paint from the canvas and leave a big space, like a big white canvas hole, and we don't want that. It's not very fun to try to cover that, so we're going to try to avoid doing that. Okay, and then even lighter down here. Just grabbing some purple, adding it in random spots. That was too much white there, so I'm just going to grab straight purple, a little bit of blue, plop it on, and then blend. Add a little bit of black for this top part here. And again, if you find like you took away too much of the dark or put too much light in, don't worry, we can fix it. Just let it dry, and then we'll come back to it and just blend it even better. All right, now we're down here. Whoops. I'm gonna rinse the black I just put on my brush off of my brush. Wipe my brush pretty dry, squeeze all the water out of it. And we are going to go back to the purple, white, we'll render all these images, all these little clouds, I mean, not images. We're not rendering images in this tutorial. Okay, now we're back to the part that's like a little bit of a dull purple pinky color, so we're gonna grab pink, purple, and a tiny little bit of yellow, like literally just a tiny bit. Now we're going to dull that purple because purple and yellow are contrasts. And we're gonna grab quite a bit of white. All right, and then we're gonna do this bottom part here, maybe a little bit more purple and yellow. And blend, blend, blend. Whoops, a little bit more white. Blend it into the previous colors. Now this probably doesn't make sense right now. It looks kind of weird, but when the trees are on top, it'll look fine. Purple. Okay, it's looking pretty alright for the second layer. We're doing quite well. Now I'm going to rinse my brush and then we are going to blow dry this or let it dry naturally. I will spritz my palette to make sure my colors don't dry out. And I'm going to blow dry this on the cool setting so that I don't color shift my paint. And I will be right back and then we'll keep doing the painting. All right, now our painting is nice and dry and we were going to be working on another layer. I think I want to start putting in the light tunnel that we see here, so that we have sort of a reference point to base all our other stuff on. And then you guys will see when you splatter in the stars, it's kind of like magic. The whole painting turns into something even more awesome. I'm excited for you guys to see this part. So I'm going to be switching over to a smaller scrubby brush. Again, you can use whatever you have, any option. This is a Willow's blender. This is a very small bright brush. This is a dome blender. These are all fairly small, so as long as you have a small scrubby brush, you'll be able to do this just fine. I'll be using my Willow's blender, and again, I'm going to be using it dry. And we are going to start rendering our little clouds up here. So I'll be getting into my zinc white, which is a transparent white. If you don't have zinc, you can just use the normal less paint on your brush. And the light tunnel is kind of a purple, yellow, pinky. There's all these colors. So I think what I'm going to do is start with a little bit of ultramarine blue, a little bit of white, maybe a tiny bit of purple since it got on the brush, and mostly zinc white. And I'm going to wipe most of the paint off my brush. I don't want a lot. All right. And it starts about a third of the way, and we're just going to start scrubbing in. You can use circles, you can use side to side. We're just going to start rendering in this light tunnel. Switch, add more blue, more purple, more pink as you go along. We just want to make sure there's no harsh lines, that we're following the basic shape of it. Your colors can differ, that's fine. We just want to follow the basic shape so that we keep the same movement. Okay. Add a little bit more purple to this, a little bit more blue. wipe off some extra paint. So there's too much paint on my brush. I'm having a hard time blending. So I'm just going to wipe some off and then just keep on going. And this doesn't have to be perfect on the first try either. We could always add some colors, take some off. Some random little bright spots here. Okay, we're getting there, guys. It's all going to come together pretty quickly at this point. Okay, there's a nice bright spot here. Off that edge. Alright, and then it fades into a little bit of a darker color, but it's still quite light. We're just going to add a little bit more purple pink pigments, maybe a little bit more blue, and we're just going to scrub. Well, that's too blue. We'll add purple. Wipe our brush. Just a little bit of extra clouds up here. There we go. More blue up here. There we go. That's not bad for our first pass around. We'll add a little bit more pink and blue to make a different kind of purple. And a little bit of white. And then here, it's quite light. There's like a secondary light spot. So we're just going to add that in. I'm about halfway up my canvas. I'm just going to start scrubbing in a more purpley cloud. I'm really excited for you guys to put in your stars, because then it'll really make it look more like a galaxy. If your brush is starting to feel dry and sticky, you can either rinse it, add a little bit of water, and just pat off the excess, because you don't want the paint to dry on your brush. I'm going to spritz my palette. Okay, and I'm just varying my colors here. You can use any blue, pink, purple. You can use blue and green and yellow if you want your galaxy to be a different color. You're not stuck using the colors that I'm using. Feel free to experiment and do what you want your painting to look like. I'm going to add a little bit more purple in between this. Okay. A little bit of darker purple down where the light column is. Right down in here it gets kind of dark, so we're just going to add in a little bit more dark purple. That's too much paint on my brush. I'm going to wipe some off. Just blend very softly here, blending gently. Okay. Oh, my brush grabbed a little bit of blue. That's fine. We'll just add some purple over it. Just going to keep adding in this little darker purple spot. Back into the light. Okay. We're getting there. We're going to grab a little bit more purple, a little bit of blue, mix those two together, add a tiny little bit of black. It's a nice color. Wipe off the excess, and you're going to add another layer of this blue color right here. scrubbing side to side, circular motions. You can use a different brush, whatever feels right for you. There's a little bit here. So we're just going to scrub a little bit of this in there. Right. I absolutely love painting galaxies and clouds because you really can't go wrong. As long as you're having fun, that's all that matters here. Add some back on top of the light cloud. You see how it's layering? It's not really covering it. It's because this blue and purple combination that I've mixed up is quite transparent, so it layers very nicely. So I'll grab more phthalo blue, more purple, a little bit of black, tiny little bit of black. You barely want any for this part. Wipe off the excess, and then we're gonna render some more blue on top of this purple here. Okay. The people on my Facebook group voted for this image. So if you'd like a say in future tutorials, you can join my Facebook group. It's in the description down below. I have charity auctions there. I also let my group members vote for future tutorials. They help me decide on a lot of paintings, stuff they'd like to see. I really, really love my Facebook group. Everyone participates. It's a lot of fun. And if you do try this painting, I would love for you to post it there so that I can see. All my social media accounts will also be linked down below. Your reference image will be there as well, and the materials. Make a dark color for right here. More purple. I'm not worrying about the bottom too much because we will be adding a tree line. If you don't want to add the trees, that's completely fine. Just take a little bit more time to work on the bottom half of your, the bottom half. Just the bottom little sliver here of your painting if you don't want to add tree silhouettes. Okay, I'm just alternating between dark and light colors. I'm looking at the reference. I'm deciding where I want what colors. I'm grabbing a bit more purple, a little bit of pink. I'm going to add a little bit of a darker color here. Blend it slightly. Now I barely have any paint on my brush, so this is perfect for blending out the edges. Whoops, turned it over. Now I have a lot of paint on my brush. So I'm just going to grab a little bit more this white dull purple color and just blend the two together. No stress. We'll add a little bit in here. Make some parts of the light tunnel a little bit darker. My phone closed. Alright. We'll add a little bit of a darker purple on this side here. Okay, now I think what I'm going to do is dry this again. I'm going to go rinse my water and rinse those brushes because it's not good to keep your brush in water for too long. You can crack the wood or the ferrule, this metal part here, could unglue and fall off, and we don't want that. So I'm just going to give this a quick blow dry, go wash my brushes, change my water, and then we're going to work on this little yellow orangey pink bit. Some little pink here, darker purple. So we're just going to refine these shapes even more, and then we'll be splattering the stars, and that's going to be a lot of fun. All right, we will be right back. All right, so it is dry. We are back. Our water is clean and our palette is misted so that our paints stay wet and active. I'm just gonna go back to my big scruffy brush real quick, and I'm just going to add a little bit of a darker purple black blue up here. I have a little spot that I missed, so I'm just gonna cover it real quick. While I have that on my brush, I'm also going to add another layer to this corner because why not? More layers, it's going to be more interesting to the human eye when you look at it again. More blue. All right, now I'm going to switch back over to my smaller brush. All right, I'm going to show you that you can do the same effect here with a different brush. So I'm going to use the bright brush instead of the Willow's blender. I'm not going to wet it. And I just want to add a little bit of this pink orange color that we have down here. So I'm going to grab my Quinacridone magenta, a tiny little bit of orange, not orange, yellow, to make an orange color. And I'm going to add a very, very, very tiny amount of the ultramarine blue just to make the color not as vibrant. Blue is the opposite to orange. I'm going to grab either titanium white or zinc white. I'm grabbing zinc to make my color a little bit more transparent. And I'm just going to start adding this little orange color here. I'm using the corner of the brush, meaning this little part here. And I'm just scrubbing in circular motions. Scrub, scrub, scrub. You can even blend with your finger if you're not allergic to anything. See, you can do the exact same thing with a different brush. You don't need the exact same materials that I'm using. A little bit more pink, well, too pink, a little bit more yellow. Right over that blue. And then we will lighten it in a second. I just want to get the base color on. You can press your brush down a little bit, get some paint off of it, and then scrub it gently. Okay, and then we're going to add more white to lighten up some bits here. A little bit more yellow. More white. We're just going to add some little highlights to this. So just pick some spots. You don't want to highlight everything, but you do want to get some light in here. If your paint is starting to feel sticky, just wait for it to dry before you do this step. That's completely fine. A little bit more white. Little wispies. And if you're still unsure about your painting, just wait until you splatter the stars. It'll all make sense. It's crazy what just splattering a few stars can do. So now there's like a little bit of like almost the same color, just more yellow and more light on our actual main light tunnel. So I'm just going to wipe some of the paint off my brush. And I'm going to grab more yellow and mix it right back into the same mixture I was just using. And I'll be using quite a bit of white. And a little bit of my transparent white. All right. And I'm going to wipe most of the paint off because I want this to be fairly transparent application. So I'm going to use as less, like minimal paint as possible. And we're just going to go over, well, that's too yellow. I'm going to add a little bit of pink. Okay, there we go. Wipe some of that off with my finger. I really want barely any paint on my brush. And I'll be using my zinc white to make this a little bit more transparent. If you don't have zinc white, that's fine. Just make sure there's barely any paint on your brush. We're just going to add a little bit of yellow on our light tunnel. You can pick and choose your spots. You can leave this part out. If at any point you feel like your sky's done, just pause, fast forward, and go to the star splatter spot. You don't have to keep doing every single step that I'm doing. If you are happy at any point with the sky that you have, just fast forward to the part where we splatter the stars. All right, we'll add a little bit of yellow in this one too, might as well. Why not, since we have it on our brush. A little bit. I'm gonna grab quite a bit of white. Well, now I'm using mostly white. I'm just going to add a little bit more right over here. Blend it with your finger if you want. Okay. Now I'm going to rinse off my brush, get the yellow off of it. Okay. Napkin's getting quite dirty, so I'm just going to do this, tuck it under my water. There we go. All right, and we are going to go back into the white and purple. Straight purple, straight white. Make a very, very, very light purple. And wipe some excess paint off your brush. And we are just going to add a little bit up here. Again, don't be worried if it's too light. You can just come back with a little bit of a darker purple once it's dry and just add it right on top. And here we have quite a white spot, so we're going to add more white than purple. Plop it on and blend. Okay, then there's another very light spot right in here. Too much paint on my brush, so I'm going to wipe it off and then blend this. Grab some zinc white or normal white. Now I'm going to grab a little bit of the ultramarine blue, a little bit of that zinc white or normal white. I'm going to add a couple more light blue clouds. A little bit more blue. Wipe the brush off, blend. Alright, it's looking quite wonderful. Oops. Yeah, I made just like a dot. I'm just going to add some blue on top of that and just blend it out. Blend it out. Okay. And I'm seeing way more purple in the middle here. and also some dark colors kind of in here. So what we're gonna do is rinse our brush. We're going to dry this one more time. I know it's a lot of drying, but trust me, it's worth waiting or blow drying it. It does give you better results when your painting is dry. So we are going to blow dry that and then we'll keep going. All right, our painting is dry and now we can add another layer. And you keep messing about with your layers until you are happy with the results. I am almost there. I just need to add a little bit of a lighter blue up here, so I'm going to grab some Ultramarine, some Phtalo, and a little bit of white, and some black. A little bit of purple, and we're just going to add a little bit up here. That's not quite right. There we go. A little more purple. Just add a little bit of light up here. I hope you're finding these tutorials helpful. I feel like this would be great for a date night, given our current situations of the world right now, if you're watching this in July of 2021. All right, and then we're gonna add some more blue, purple, white here. And then we're going to start adding a darker color in here. So I see that there's a darker cloud here. So what I'm going to do is add some purple and black. And we're just going to add a few darker cloud spots in some areas. Okay. There's one kind of in here. And again, if you don't like something on the reference, you don't have to add it. Don't feel obligated to copy it exactly. It's just a reference. There we go. Okay. A little bit more black and purple. Now you want to be careful not to add white or blend it with white here if you are using black, because it will turn gray, and we don't want any gray in our sky. Okay, and now we also see that there's way more purple in here. I took out most of it, so what I'm going to do is just add some more. No stress. Purple, a little bit of white. Wipe some paint off my brush and just put it back in. Just add some purple again. And again, if you're happy with your results, you don't have to do this. Okay. A bit more here. Right in here, there's like a purple pink situation going on. Wipe my brush off. Okay. Grab some more purple and blue. I'm gonna make a dark color. Just gonna add some here. Whoops, my reference went away. There we go. And then we are going to add a little bit Got some dark over top these light clouds that we did earlier. We'll grab some ultramarine blue. And we're going to scrub some on top here. Okay. A little bit down here. Grab a little bit purple. And I'll just add a little bit more purple down here. Okay. A little bit more white. I'm just going to make this little spot here a little bit brighter. Wipe off our brush. Alright, there we go. A little bit more white again. We're going to add a bright spot right there. Wow, that was way too much paint. I'm just going to blend it out. A little bit white. And we'll add a little bit more white to this as well. Okay, there we go. There's a couple more things I want to add, and then we will be good to add our stars. It's quite a bit of dark purple in the middle, so we're just going to add black and purple. And I'm just going to add a little bit around here, like on our reference. Doesn't have to be perfect. Too much black, just put a little bit of purple on top. Scrub off that extra color when there's barely any left on my brush. Okay. Alright, we're going to add a little bit of a lighter purple. Missed my palette, it's getting sticky. Okay, a little bit of a lighter purple. A little bit lighter than that. Right around this orangey bit. And a little bit here as well. Whoop, that was a little too light, so just grab a little bit more purple, more blue, more pink, whatever color you're using. Alright, I think I'm quite happy with that. Just gonna add a little bit more of this pinky purple color, pinky orangey color down on the sides. So I'm just gonna grab that color. If you don't have any more left of it, it was a little bit of the magenta, the yellow, and a smidge, like the tiniest speck of blue. I'm just going to add some on top here. Add a little bit of white. There we go. A little bit here. Alright, now if we look at the reference, there's a little bit of some lighter blue clouds here, a little bit lighter purple clouds there, so we're just going to add that, and then we're doing the stars. Rinse off your brush. Wipe it off, get most of the water off of it. I'm going to grab, let's see here, some ultramarine, and maybe a little bit of purple with that, and a little bit of white. And we're just going to add a couple little clouds here. A little bit up here. We're going to add a little more light up here. There we go. And a couple more up here. Get some more paint on your brush. Alrighty, and I'm not sure if the camera's picking up all the different color variations, but in person, this looks absolutely amazing. Okay, I think we're ready to splatter some stars. Let's see, one more little spot. A bit more blue. A bit more darker purple. Okay, yeah, I think we are ready to go. Maybe we'll add a little bit more darker colors here. I'm just going to take what's left on my brush here, which isn't very much paint. It's just kind of layering a little bit more colors on top. Whoopsies. Adding some little dots of some smaller bright clouds. All right, let's add some stars. So I'm going to rinse my brush, mist my palette, and this is when our toothbrush comes in handy. And I'll show you another trick as well if you don't have a toothbrush. Now, if you're using craft acrylics, let me just grab mine real quick. Alright, I'm not sure where the white bottle of craft acrylic is, but if you're using a liquid paint like this, it's actually beneficial for this step. I just can't find mine, so we're just going to use the regular heavy body white. I'm going to get my toothbrush wet. I'm going to grab some white. I'm going to find a clean spot on my palette, and I'm going to water it down quite a bit to like a milky, inky consistency. And get it all over my toothbrush like this. I don't want it to be dripping off. And I'm going to take my thumb and flick it. So let's start. I'm going to flick my thumb. I'm holding it about 6 inches away from the canvas. And I'm just going to splatter some stars. See how awesome that made it look? I love the star splatter step. So here, the stars are done. If you don't have a toothbrush, this is what I used to do before I decided to just go buy an extra toothbrush. You're going to wet a quite soft brush, and you're going to water down the paint. If you have the craft liquid paint, you don't have to water it down as much. So I'm just going to grab some more white, make a nice little puddle of paint here. Alrighty. And then I'm going to make sure it's quite wet. And what I used to do was grab another paintbrush and just hit the two together. This makes a mess, so if you're wearing nice clothes or you are painting in your living room or at your kitchen table and you like your table maybe don't use this method, just go out and buy like a $1 toothbrush. But here's the star splatters. I think I'm going to zoom you in so you can get a closer look at what it's looking like before we add in the tree silhouette. So let me zoom you in. Alrighty, so here you can really see all the different colors we added, the star splatters. It's looking awesome. It's looking like a galaxy. The camera's not really picking up all the different color variations, which is fine. You at home, I hope you are loving this. So I'm going to zoom you back out and we are going to add our tree silhouettes. Alrighty, if you are scared to splatter the stars because you feel like you did a really good job with your background and you don't want to ruin it, you can test it out on a piece of paper first to make sure that your paint is the right consistency. The more wet your paint is, the bigger the stars are going to be, and the more dry, the smaller the stars are going to be. I like to do like a variation. And now we're going to add our trees, and then that's it, you guys. You painted a galaxy. Isn't that crazy? Good job. So we're going to put out some more black paint. Again, I'll show you different techniques to get the same result. So I'm just going to put more black paint on my palette. I'm going to use my sea sponge. I'm just going to mist it a little bit. You want it to be damp, but not wet. All right. Pat it off. If you do your makeup and you use a beauty blender, you want it to be damp like that. All right, and we're going to go into the black paint. I don't have a ton on my brush, on the sponge. This is not a brush. And I'm going to, again, just find a clean spot, maybe the side here, and just pat it on my sponge like this. And we are going to start at the bottom here. We're going to sponge in different patterns. You want to make sure that the bottom is solid, so sponge the bottom quite a bit. And then when you get to the top is when you don't want to press so hard. Just use light pressure so that you get the different shapes of the trees on top, like the different tree tops. I'm going to grab more paint. Make sure this bottom edge is solid black. And then we are going to turn our sponge different ways because you don't want to make a pattern, because your eyes are going to notice the pattern first. So you just want to make sure the bottom is nice and dark, and then the top is fluffy little trees in the far, far distance. Alrighty, if you didn't have a sponge, I'm just going to put this aside here, and I'm going to we'll grab just any kind of brush to fill in the bottom. So I'm just going to grab this brush and get some black paint on it. So you would just fill out the bottom like this. Maybe tap it in. And then when you got ready to do your little fuzzy tree tops on the very top line here like this, I'm just going to fill in the bottom there. 1 second. There's like a taller tree up here. I'm just filling this in really quickly. So you would just fill it in like this, and then you would switch to a round brush to do all your little details. I'm just going to make sure I'm painting the bottom here. Okay, so that's painted in. You want to vary the heights and stuff, and then you would grab a round brush like this, or even a tiny one if you feel like it, and just get some water on it. You don't want it to be soaking wet, but you don't want it to be dry. And you would just tap, just do little taps to mimic the sponge. You don't need a ton of paint on your brush, but basically you would just do that. Tiny little taps to mimic leaves in the distance, and you could basically get the same results. This just takes a little bit more patience. You can use a smaller brush if you want smaller little dots. Okay. I just prefer the sponge method because it is much quicker. So I'm just going to finish with the sponge, and if you want a smaller surface area, you can just squeeze your sponge. Okay, make sure your trees are varying heights. You don't want to make the same tree all the way across. Make sure that's nice and filled in. I'm going to put my sponge in water because I don't want it to dry. And I will be adding some extra little bips and bops here with the tiny little round brush. Just going to dip it in my black paint. And I'm just going to add a little bit more definition here to the tops of my trees. I think we are done, guys. Now you can sign your piece. I like to sign mine in the back. That's just a personal preference. You can sign yours once it's dry. And that's it. You painted a galaxy. Good job. If you do paint this, feel free to check out the Facebook group down below in the description and show me what you've done. I'm going to take a tour around the canvas and... So here's what the finished painting looks like. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell to be notified when I upload next. I'll be posting a new tutorial every Tuesday and Friday. If you followed along with me, please join my Facebook group in the description below and show me your work. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you a lot. Have a wonderful day. Bye.